Hello everyone, welcome back to Mr. Cloudbook channel. Today we are diving into the world of Docker security. Docker is a powerful tool for containerization, but to ensure your containers and applications are safe, it's crucial to follow best practice. In this video, we will explore 20 essential Docker security tips, and for each tip we will provide a real world examples to help you understand how to apply these practices in your own projects. Let's get started. The mastering of Docker security with these 20 steps. The first tip is update regularly. So always keep your Docker daemon and base images are up to date. To patch known vulnerabilities, use Docker pull to get the latest image versions. So let's provide a basic example of a real world. Think of your Docker container like the apps on your smartphone. Just like apps on your phone gets updates to fix bugs and new features, your Docker containers and the tools that run them also need update. So scenario 1 I will explain clearly. So outdated apps, if there is no update. So suppose you have a favorite weather app that you use every day but you never update it. So over time you might start noticing that it does not show the correct weather and sometimes it crashes. This happens because the app has bugs and it's not using the latest information. So this is the issue you will get when you don't update your images or daemon and everything regularly. Let's talk about the scenario 2. So whenever you update your images and everything regularly, so now imagine you always keep your weather app up to date and you receive your regular updates that make the app work better, so accurate weather and keep your phone running smoothly. So that's why we need to update your images or Docker daemon and everything regularly. So in the Docker world, your containers are like those apps and the tools Docker uses are like your phone operating system. To keep everything working well and secure, you should regularly update your Docker containers and Docker software itself. This is like making your apps are up to date on your smartphone to enjoy the latest features and avoid problems. Just as you would go to your app store to update your weather app in Docker, you use the Docker pull command to get the latest and most secure version of your containers and tools. By doing this, you ensure that your containers are running smoothly and any security issues or bugs get fixed, just like updating your smartphone apps keeps them working correctly and safely. So this is the first tip I am going to explain. So update your Docker daemon or Docker images regularly. For the second tip, you have to use the minimal images. Start with the minimal base image like Alpine, Linux to reduce the attack surface. Smaller images often have a lesser vulnerabilities. So in order to explain this scenario, so when you create a Docker container, you start with a base image. Think of this base image as a foundation for your container, like the frame of house. Now some base images are large and come with lots of pre-installed software and tools, just like moving into a fully furnished house. So but there is a problem with these big house. Fully furnished houses, they have more rooms and more windows. In the Docker world, that means they have the larger attack surface. This is where hackers could potentially find a ways to get in. So on the other hand, minimal images like Alpine Linux are like empty houses with just the essentials. They have fewer rooms. They have fewer rooms and less windows, which means a smaller attack surface. So that's why use these smaller minimal base images for your Docker file. Now when you create your container on a minimal base image, it's like building a small secure and efficient home. There are fewer places for hackers to sneak in because there are fewer doors and windows to watch. And if you want another example, think of it like this. If you are going on a trip, you wouldn't carry your whole house with you, right? So you would pack only what you need. The same goes for the Docker containers also. Starting with the minimal image is like a packing just what you need for your journey, and it's efficient and you are less likely to forget something and important to carry unnecessary baggage. So why it matters? The why the minimal images only matter? Well, using minimal images is like securing your house with fewer doors and Windows, there are fewer opportunities for the bad things to happen. Hackers have fewer ways to sneak in, and you reduce the chances of vulnerabilities because there is a less stuff to go wrong. Smaller images often mean fewer security holes. To sum it up, starting with the minimal base images like Alpine, Linux is a smart move. It's like a building small, efficient house with fewer entry points for potential issues. So when creating your Docker container, think minimal for a safer and more secure environment. For the next tip, we are going to scan our images. So for the scanning of images, we are using the Trivi, Claire, or SNCs and everything to scan our images for vulnerabilities and everything before deploying them. So let's talk about the real life scenario. Imagine you are a chef and you are preparing a special dish before using any ingredient, and you would want to make sure it's fresh and safe to eat. So you check for any expiration dates or recalls on your ingredients. So we will inspect everything before cooking, right? That's why we need to check everything. So the same thing works for the Docker also. So whenever we deploy, before we need to scan that image. So in the Docker world, using the same scanning tools like Clary, Trivi, or SNCs or Docker security scanning is like checking those expiration dates for your software ingredients. So why it matters? So why the scanning matters? So well, just like using expired or unsafe ingredients in your meal can make you sick, using Docker images with known vulnerabilities can put your application and data at risk. So that's why we need to scan. Hackers and cyber threats often target these vulnerabilities. So it's essential to scan your images and fix any bad ingredients before they become a security problem. To sum it up, scanning your Docker images is like being a diligent chef who ensures the safety and quality of the ingredients before you cooking. So it's a crucial step in keeping your application and data secure. For the next fourth tip is limit privileges. So whenever we run a containers with the least privileges, run with limit privileges. But whenever we create a Docker image, we will directly use to run with the root access. That's why this is not the safe to use. So we have to create a user to make the limit privileges. So let's make it simple. When you create a Docker container, it's like having a superhero with certain powers. But if your superhero has too many powers, they might accidentally do something harmful like breaking things or causing chaos and everything. So in the Docker world also, the superpowers are the privileges and the permission that a container has. By default, many containers use the root user, which is like a superhero with all the powers in the world. So running your containers as a root user can be risky. It's like letting your superhero run wild and unchecked, which could lead the unintended consequences. So what we do is limit those superpowers. We use the user directive in our Docker files to specify that our superhero should have only the necessary powers, not all of them. So this is like telling your superhero you can use only these specific powers for this task. Think of it this way: if you are at a school, you have different roles. You are a student and not a teacher or a principal. You have limited powers and responsibilities based on your role. So in Docker, it's also similar. You don't want your container to have the powers of the principal or the teacher. You want it to act like a student with specific and limited roles. So that's why we need to set the limit privileges. In nutshell, limiting privileges in your Docker container is like ensuring that your superhero follows the rules and only uses the powers they really need. It is a smart move for a safer and more secure Docker environment. Our fifth Docker security tip is all about network segmentation. But what's network segmentation and why it is crucial for Docker security? Let's explore. So imagine your Docker environment as a big city with different neighborhoods. Each neighborhood has its own rules, houses and streets. They are separated to keep things organized and secure. In Docker, these neighborhoods are like networks, and your containers are the houses in those neighborhoods. they can communicate with each other, but we want to make sure it's done safely. Network segmentation is like setting up boundaries between these neighborhoods. We can create a network bridges and only open the necessary ports between them. So this way we ensure that containers from one neighborhood can't just wander into another without permission. Let's make it with real world example. Think of it as having a home network and a work network in your own house. You have separate Wi-Fi for your work, so your work devices don't have access to your home devices. In Docker, it's similarly we create these networks and separate Wi-Fi's to isolate containers, keeping them secure and organized. So why it matters? So why network segmentation is matters? Well, without network segmentation, it's like having an open city with no boundaries. Anyone can go anywhere, and that's a security risk. By isolating containers and controlling the streets they can use, we preventing unauthorized access and reducing the risk of security breaches. So to wrap it up, network segmentation in Docker is like having a well-organized neighborhoods in a city. It's a key practice to enhance security and keep your containers safe and sound. Our sixth Docker security tip is all about writing a secure Docker file. But what exactly does that mean? Why is it helpful for your Docker containers? Let's break it down. So think of a Docker file as a recipe to create your Docker container. So just like you follow a recipe when cooking, a Docker file, Docker how to build your container, but not all recipes are created equal. So writing a secure Docker file means following best practice to make sure your container is built in a safe and efficient way. It's like following a recipe that ensure your dish is not only delicious but also safe to eat. So for example, there are the best practice like using the copy instead of add in your Docker file. So copy is like carefully measuring your ingredients in your recipe, making sure everything is right. On the other best practice is to limit the number of layers in your Docker file. Layers are like the steps in your Docker recipe or in your recipe. The more steps you have, the more complicated and harder to manage it becomes. So and of course avoid installing unnecessary software in your Docker files. It's like adding ingredients that don't belong in your recipe. They might make your dish taste weird or cause problems. So when you write a secure Docker file, you are making sure your recipe is not just tasty but also safe and easy to work with. User privileges, not the root privileges in your Docker file. So real world example is like think of it is like a building a Lego set. You follow the instructions carefully using only the pieces provided. You don't add extra pieces that don't belong because they could make your creation unstable. So in Docker, following the best practice for writing your Docker file is like following a Lego instructions. It ensures your container is built correctly and securely. So why it matters? So well, a poorly written Docker file is like confusing or incomplete recipe. It can lead to security issues, inefficiencies and difficulties in managing your container. So by writing secure Docker files, you are making sure that your container are created correctly and without unnecessary complications. This enhances your container security and manageability. To sum it up, writing a secure Docker files is like following a well-structured recipe. It ensures your containers are not only functional but also safe and easy to maintain. So our seventh Docker security tip is all about managing secrets. But what are secrets and why should we handle with them care? Let's find it out. In the world of Docker, secrets are sensitive pieces of information like passwords, API keys, or certificates. So think of them as a valuable treasury that you need to keep hidden and safe. Now, when you create a Docker container, there is a chance you might need to use this treasure to access certain services or database. But here is the important part. you should never just put them out in the open. Hard coding secrets in your Docker files or environment variables is like leaving your valuables out in the open for anyone to see. It's a security risk waiting to happen. So how do we keep our treasures safe? We use the Docker secrets or external tools like HashiCorp Vault. Docker secrets is like a secure vault where you can store your secrets. It ensures they are protected and only accessible by the containers that need them. So for the real world example, think of it as having a safe at home. You wouldn't leave your precious items lying around. Instead of, you would keep them in a secure locked safe to prevent theft or unauthorized access. In Docker secrets is also like that, locked safe, ensuring your secrets are kept securely away from prying eyes. So why secrets management is matters? So why is this so crucial? So well, secrets are like the keys to your kingdom. If they are exposed, your application and data become vulnerable to attacks or misuse. So by properly managing secrets, you are adding an extra layer of security, making sure only the right containers can access and use them. So to wrap it up, managing secrets in Docker is like keeping your valuable treasure in a secure wallet. It's important practice and it's a good practice to for enhancing your container security. Our eighth Docker security tip is all about reducing the attack surface. What does that mean and why it is crucial for your Docker containers? Let's uncover the details. Reduce the attack surface. Think of your Docker container like a fortress. In this fortress, you have tools, equipments, and supplies. Now to keep your fortress secure, so you wouldn't want to leave extra doors or windows open, right? In the Docker world, the tools and equipment are the software libraries and files in your container. They are like the doors and windows that potential attackers could use them to get in. Reducing the attack's surface means closing and locking any doors and windows that you don't need. You remove unnecessary tools and files from your container, making it more secure. This is like fortifying your fortress, making it harder for malicious users to find a way in. Imagine you have a backpack for a campaign trip. You wouldn't pack everything you own, right? So you would bring only the essentials like food, water, and a tent, basic clothes, and everything. So in the Docker, it's also similar. You want to pack only what you need for your application, removing unnecessary items from your container. This minimizes the chances of security risks. Why it matters? So well, the more doors and windows you have open in your container, the more opportunities there are for malicious users to exploit vulnerabilities. By reducing the attack surface, you are limiting these opportunities, making your container a more formidable fortress against potential attacks. So in conclusion, reducing the attack surface in a Docker is like securing your fortress by closing unnecessary doors and windows. It's a smart practice for enhancing container security. Our ninth Docker security tip is all about runtime protection. What is it, runtime protection, and why does it matter for your Docker containers? Imagine your Docker container as a car and it's driving on the roads of your system. Just like you follow traffic rules to keep your car and others safe, you want to ensure that your container behaves properly within your system. Runtime protection is like setting up traffic rules for your container. It uses tools like AppArmor or SSA Linux to create mandatory access controls. These controls restrict what your container can do, just as traffic rules restrict what your car can do on the road. This ensures that your container stays in its lane, so it does not cause chaos on the system roads. For the real world example, think of it like having a security guard in a museum. The security guard ensures that visitors follow the rules and don't touch the art and stay in designated areas to protect the valuable exhibits. In Docker, AppArmor or Azure Linux act like as the security guards, making sure your container behaves according to the rules you set, protecting your system's valuable exhibits. To sum it up, runtime protection in a Docker is like having a traffic rules or a security guard to keep your container in check. It's a smart practice for enhancing container security. Our 10th Docker security tip is all about content trust. But what is content trust? Why is it essential for your Docker images? And let's explore. Imagine your Docker images are like sealed packages. When you buy something online, you want to be sure that package you receive is sealed and hasn't been tampered. So content trust in a Docker is like this seal on that package. It ensures that the Docker images you use are signed and verified, just as the seal on a package ensures it's genuine. So enabling content trust prevents you from accepting packages without a seal. In the Docker world, it stops you from pulling images that aren't signed and verified. This way, you can be confident that the images you use in your environment are from trustworthy sources and haven't been tampered with. Think of it like going to the pharmacy for a medicine. You wouldn't take medicine from a bottle without a proper label and a seal, right? You wanted to be sure it's safe and genuine. In Docker, content trust acts as that label and seal, ensuring the authenticity and safety for the images to use. So why the content trust is matters? Why is this important? Using unsigned or unverified Docker images is like taking unmarked medicine. You are risking your system health and security. By enabling content trust, you are safeguarding your environment, ensuring that only trusted and verified images can be used, reducing the risk of security. So to wrap it up, content trust in a Docker is like checking the seal on a package or the label on a medicine bottle. It's a important practice for enhancing the security and authenticity of your Docker images. Docker security tip is all about network policies. But what are the network policies and why are the importance for securing your Docker containers? Let's find out. Imagine your Docker environment as a bustling city with various districts, each with its own rules and regulation. The streets are like communication pathways between containers, and you want to ensure everything stays orderly and secure. Network policies are like traffic rules for the city. You implement them using tools like Calico or Kubernetes network policies to control the container communication. These policies define who can talk to whom and what kind of conversations they can have. It's like ensuring only authorized people can visit specific districts and follow the rules. This keeps your Docker city organized and secure, reducing the risk of unwanted visitors or disruptions. Think of it like a high security building with restricted access areas. You can't just wander around freely. There are areas where only specific personnel are allowed and they have limited access. In Docker, network policies work similarly. They create controlled access zones for containers, ensuring that only authorized communications happens in specific areas. So why the network policies matters? Well, without network policies, it's like having a city without traffic rules. Chaos could ensue and anyone could access any district, leading to potential security breaches. By implementing the network policies, you are maintaining order, controlling communication, and reducing the risk of unauthorized access, making your Docker city safer. So to sum it wrap, for the conclusion, network policies in a Docker are like traffic rules and restricted access areas in a city. They are important practice for maintaining order, enhancing the security of your container environment. Our 12th Docker security tip is all about handling external dependencies. But what are external dependencies and why should be cautious when dealing with them in your Docker containers? Imagine your Docker container as a private island. It's a self-contained world and everything it needs is on the island. However, sometimes your container might need something from outside world like supplies or information. So external dependencies are like the connections between your island and outside world. They can be bridges that allow your container to access resource on the internet. Now here is where security comes in. Allowing your container to freely access the internet without control is like leaving the island open to anyone or anything from the outside. To enhance the security, you should use a proxy or a controlled egress traffic. This is like having a gatekeeper who decides what can come in and go out from the island. It ensures that only the necessary resources are accessed, reducing the risk of unauthorized access or potential threats. Why does this matter? So, well running containers with unrestricted internet access is like leaving your house unlocked, making it vulnerable to intruders. By using a proxy or a controlled egress traffic, you are adding an extra layer of security, ensuring that only necessary external resources are accessed while blocking potential security threats. So, for the conclusion, managing external dependencies in Docker is like securing your private island or a high-tech house. It's a crucial practice for enhancing the security of your container environment. Our 13th Docker security tip focus on securing APIs. But what are APIs? Why is it essential to protect them in your Docker environment? Let's uncover the details. APIs are application programming interfaces, are like the entry points to your Docker environment. They are like the doors to a secure facility. Now you wouldn't want to leave those doors wide open for anyone to stroll in, right? Securing API means adding layers of protection to these entry points. It's like having a strong locks, security checks, and access control for those doors. One way to do this is by using the TLS encryption. TLS is like encryption code for your logs. It ensures that any communication through the API is secure and can't be easily intercepted. Strong authentication is like the key to those logs. It ensures that only authorized users or containers can access the API. And for an extra layer of security, you can use client certificates. They are like special badges that authorized users or containers need to show to gain access. In essence, securing APIs is about fortifying your facility doors to prevent unauthorized access and ensure that communication is confidential. Think of it like protecting a high security vault. You wouldn't leave the vault door unlocked, right? You will have a multiple layers of security like electronic locks, security checks, and key cards. In Docker, securing APIs works in similar way. It's like having a well protected vault, ensuring only authorized access and confidential communication. Our 14th Docker security tip is all about images signing. But what is image signing and why should you sign your Docker images? Let's find it out. So imagine you are sending a letter to someone. To ensure that the letter hasn't been tampered with on its way, you would put your signature on it, right? So your signature serves as a mark of authenticity and integrity. And so image signing in a Docker is similar. It's like putting your digital signature on your Docker images to verify their authenticity and integrity. You can sign your images using technologies like GPG or Notary. These signatures act as a seal of trust, showing that the image is genuine and hasn't been altered. This practice ensures that the images you use in a Docker environment are from trusted sources and haven't been tampered with along the way. Our 15th Docker security tip is all about isolation zones. But what are the isolation zones? Why should you use them to enhance the security of your Docker containers? Let's explore. Imagine you have a big and shared workspace where different teams work on their projects. Each team has its own area with walls and they can't peek into other workspaces. This keeps their project separate and secure. Isolation zones in Docker are like those separate workspaces. They involve using different Docker hosts or Kubernetes namespaces for different application tiers, effectively separating and isolating workloads. This isolation ensures that the workloads don't interfere with each other, just like the teams in separate workspaces can't meddle with each other's project. By creating these isolation zones, you are enhancing the security of your Docker environment, preventing potential disruptions or unauthorized access. Our 16th Docker security tip is all about runtime scanning. But what is runtime scanning and why should you consider using it to enhance the security of your Docker containers? Let's find it out. Picture your Docker container as a well-guarded castle. It's important to keep an eye on what's happening inside to ensure the safety and security of the castle and its inhabitants. Runtime scanning in a Docker is like having guards patrolling the castle walls, halls, constantly monitoring for any unusual or suspicious activity. You can use tools like Falcos to perform the continuous monitoring. Falco is like vigilant sentry, capable of detecting and preventing abnormal behavior within your containers. So for the real world example, think of it like having a smart security system in your home. If someone tries to break in or something unusual happens, the system immediately alerts you or the authorities to take action. Falco acts as the smart security system, promptly identifying and reacting to any abnormal container behavior to maintain a secure environment. Our 17th Docker security tip focuses on immutable containers. Imagine your Docker container as a sand castle on the beach. It's a temporary and over time. The waves and weather can erode its structure and security. Immutable containers in Docker are like sand castles you create. Instead of trying to patch and repair the same sand castles as it is erodes, you rebuild and redeploy new ones. This practice reduces drift changes and vulnerabilities that can accumulate in running containers over time. Just like a fresh sand castle is less likely to have a flaws, and newly deployed immutable container is more secure. Our 18th Docker security tip is all about privileged containers. Think of a Docker container as a safe, confined spaces like rooms in your houses. These rooms have limited access to the rest of your home to prevent any mishaps. So privileged containers on the other hand are like giving a container a master key to your entire house. It's like saying you have unrestricted access to everything. Using the privileged flag in Docker is essential, granting a container extensive system access. It's like allowing it to roam freely and potentially cause the chaos in your environment. To enhance security, it's crucial to avoid using privileged unless it's an absolute necessity. Otherwise, you risk exposing your entire system to potential vulnerabilities. Think of it like your house keys. You wouldn't give your house keys to stranger, right? Who might misuse them and access your entire house. You would only share your keys with trusted individuals when necessary. In Docker, avoiding the privilege is similar. It's like not giving out your keys unless it's essential, reducing the risk of unauthorized system access. Our 19th Docker security tip involves adhering to SSA benchmarks. Think of Docker security as a road trip. You wouldn't embark on a journey without a reliable map and directions, right? You would want to a well-established route to ensure you reach your destination safely. CIS benchmarks in Docker are like that trusted map and well-established route. The Center for Internet Security provides these benchmarks, which are industry standard security guidelines and best practice. By following CIS benchmarks, you are essential to taking the recommended route to secure Docker environment. It's like making sure your road trips is safe, efficient as possible. Our 20th and final Docker tip is all about continuous learning. But why is it crucial to stay updated on Docker security best practice, especially as the landscape evolves? Let's find it out. Imagine your Docker security as a puzzle. New pieces are added over time and the puzzle's picture evolves. To complete the puzzle, you need to keep up with the changes. So staying updated on Docker security best practice is like regularly checking for a new puzzle pieces and making sure they fit. It ensures that your security knowledge remains complete and up to date. Docker security is a dynamic field as threats and technologies change. So do the best practice continuous learning allows you to adapt and apply the latest strategies. So why this is important? Well, not staying updated on Docker security is like driving a car with outdated and potential unsafe components. It is increase the risk of issues and vulnerabilities. Continuous learning ensures you are aware of the latest threats, solutions, and best practice, and reducing the risk of security breaches and keeping your Docker environment in top shape. So Docker security is indeed an ongoing process. By implementing the practices mentioned in these tips, you will be well on your building a more robust and secure container environment. Remember that the security landscape evolves, so staying informed and continuously improving your security practice is a key maintaining the integrity of your Docker containers. If you have any more questions or need further assistance, feel free to ask. Thanks for watching the video and keep on supporting the Mr. Cloudbook channel.